Last week on Double Nickel Road Trip, I enjoyed time with friends in Detroit Metro. I deployed the Sky Camp for the very first time in Manistee National Forest. And I was able to check off my very first bucket list item by summiting the Overlook number 9 dune at Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. Today's episode takes us across one of the world's longest suspension bridges to Michigan's Upper Peninsula. Join me today on an epic episode of Double Nickel Road Trip. Subscribe below. For much of the 20th century, crossing the Straits of Mackinac from the relative civilization of Michigan's mitten-shaped lower peninsula to the untamed wilds of its upper peninsula required a relatively laborious ferry ride from Mackinac City to St. Ignace. In fact, during the autumn, hunters coveting fresh game would car camp as long as 3 days for their turn to board the ferry and cross the 5-mile strait. That all changed on November 1st, 1957, when one of our nation's most impressive engineering structures finally bridged the two land masses. Yesterday, I was fortunate enough to tick off bucket list item number 2 by walking across the mighty Mac by participating in the 2021 annual Bridge Walk. And so now, as I take Lexi across the span that I just walked yesterday, I look forward to a week of exploring the wonders of the Upper Peninsula, Tahquamenon Falls, Pictured Rocks, and the Keweenaw Peninsula, but not until a good night's rest in Sault Saint Marie. The next morning, I rolled out of my bed refreshed. And even though Sault Saint Marie greeted me with an angry sky and a cool and rainy demeanor, I was ready to stretch Lexi's legs along the Lake Superior coast. But before we made our way westward toward bucket list item number 3, Pictured Rock National Lakeshore, we explored another civil engineering marvel, the Soo Locks, that enable more than 10,000 ships annually to pass from Lake Superior to the lower Great Lakes. Next, I explored the main strip of Sault Saint Marie, recently emptied of the summer crowds, and tried an Upper Peninsula favorite, the pasty. It's kind of like a pot pie, except you put the gravy on top. It was perfect comfort food for a rainy, fall-like day. So with a full belly and a full tank of gas, Lexi and I make our way westward towards Pictured Rocks. My waitress back in Sioux told me that a must stop and see on the way to Pictured Rocks is Tahquamenon Falls. She was right. It didn't disappoint. Tahquamenon Falls is the third largest waterfall by volume east of the Mississippi River. She's nicknamed Root Beer Falls because of the brown streaks of water that pour over her crown. The root beer-like coloring derives from the waters upstream that leach the tannins from the native cedar swamps. After leaving the falls, Lexi and I find ourselves on a seasonal dirt road that runs along the windy Lake Superior coastline towards Pictured Rock. Finally, I arrived at the eastern frontier of Pictured Rock National Lakeshore, and while on the way to my campground, I pulled over at the first Pictured Rock Classic, the Log Slide Overlook. 19th century lumberjacks used the steep and sandy dune to jettison freshly cut trees to the barges waiting below. After observing the wind and surf from my perch above the mighty Lake Superior, the tragic sinking of the Edmund Fitzgerald no longer seemed so mysterious. Dusk approached, so instead of scouting out public lands for a place to boondock, I secured a spot nestled against the shore at Hurricane River. Before I tucked in for the night, however, I decided to explore.